Ever wondered about the differences between JSP and servlets? Today we dive into a point-by-point comparison to help you understand these two Java technologies better. Let's start by introducing JSP, short for JavaServer Pages, and Servlets. Both are Java technologies used for building dynamic web applications, and they play complementary roles in the Java web development stack. But what's the purpose of each? Servlets are Java classes that dynamically process and respond to client requests. They handle the nitty-gritty low-level tasks such as parsing the request, processing the data, and generating responses. They're like the diligent backstage crew of a theater production, ensuring everything runs smoothly behind the scenes. On the other hand, JSP, with its HTML-like syntax and embedded Java code, simplifies the creation of dynamic web pages. It's like the dazzling actors on the stage, delivering a stellar performance to the audience, which in this case is your web users. JSP pages are compiled into servlets by the container at runtime, making them a bit of a two-in-one package. Now let's talk syntax. Servlets are written entirely in Java code. They typically extend the JavaServer servlet, TTPP, TP-servlet class, and override methods such as doGet and doPost to handle HTTP requests. In contrast, JSP allows you to embed Java code directly into HTML-like markup using special tags. It's a different approach but equally effective. When it comes to the separation of concerns, servlets enforce a clear distinction between presentation logic and business logic. They're well suited for applications following the model view controller architecture. JSP, however, can lead to a mix of presentation and business logic, which can be a violation of the separation of concerns principle. But don't worry, best practices recommend using JSPs mainly for presentation and delegating business logic to Java classes. Now that we've introduced JSP and servlets, let's delve into their key differences. Starting off with syntax, servlets and JSP have quite different approaches. Let's dive in. Servlets are written entirely in Java, a language many of us are well acquainted with. When you're working with servlets, you're typically extending the HTTP servlet class and overriding methods like doGet and doPost to handle HTTP requests. This means that you're dealing with pure Java code, a language that's robust, versatile, and has a well-defined structure. On the other hand, JSP or JavaServer Pages allows you to embed Java code directly into HTML-like markup. If you're wondering how this happens, let me explain. JSP uses special tags such as %% for scriptlets, %=% for expressions, and %% for declarations. This provides a more intuitive way for developers to create dynamic web content, especially if they're coming from a front-end development background. But it's not all about ease of use. The syntax of servlets and JSP also has implications on how you structure your code and your project. With servlets, your Java code is separate and distinct from your HTML. This promotes a clear separation between your business logic, which lives in your Java code, and your presentation logic, which lives in your HTML. JSP, on the other hand, lets you mix Java code and HTML in the same file. This can be a double-edged sword. On one hand, it can make it easier to create dynamic web pages, as you can mix logic and presentation in the same file. On the other hand, it can lead to messy code if not managed carefully, as business logic and presentation logic can get tangled up. So as you can see, the syntax of servlets and JSP caters to different needs and preferences. If you prefer a clear separation of concerns and a pure Java environment, servlets might be your pick. If you want to rapidly develop dynamic web pages with a blend of Java and HTML, JSP could be the way to go. Clearly, the syntax of these tools caters to different needs and preferences in web development. Moving on to the principle of separation of concerns, let's see how servlets and JSP fare. In the world of web development, maintaining a clear distinction between presentation and business logic is vital. This is where servlets shine. They enforce a clear separation of concerns, handling low-level tasks such as request parsing and data processing, effectively keeping the presentation logic separate from the business logic. This makes them a great fit for applications following the model view controller architecture. On the flip side, JSP allows embedding Java code directly into HTML. While this can speed up development, it can also lead to a mix of presentation and business logic if not managed carefully. This violates the separation of concerns principle, creating potential difficulties down the line. While servlets offer a clearer separation of concerns, it's crucial to follow best practices when using JSP to avoid muddling presentation and business logic. Maintenance and flexibility are essential in web development. How do servlets and JSP compare in these aspects? When it comes to maintainability, servlets generally have the upper hand. The structure of servlets, which is based entirely on Java, tends to be more organized and more straightforward to test. This comes down to the clear separation of concerns that servlets enforce. Presentation logic is kept separate from business logic, leading to cleaner, more manageable code. This separation makes it easier for developers to navigate, update, and debug their code, which is particularly advantageous in larger, more complex projects. On the other hand, JavaServer Pages, or JSP, can present more of a challenge in terms of maintainability. The ability to embed Java code directly into HTML-like markup can lead to a mixing of presentation and business logic. This can make the code harder to read and understand, particularly for someone who didn't write it. Additionally, it can make refactoring and testing more problematic. However, this is more of an issue with the misuse of JSP rather than a flaw in the technology itself. When used correctly, with business logic delegated to Java classes, JSP can also be effectively maintained. Now let's talk about flexibility. Servlets provide developers with substantial control over the request handling process. With servlets, you have full control over the request lifecycle, allowing you to implement custom request processing logic. This flexibility can be a powerful tool, providing the ability to fine-tune your web application's behavior to meet your specific needs. In contrast, JSPs are more geared towards rapid development and prototyping. They allow developers to create dynamic web pages quickly using familiar HTML-like syntax. This makes JSP an excellent choice when you need to get a dynamic web page up and running in a short amount of time. In conclusion, servlets edge out JSP in terms of maintainability, but JSP offers more rapid development and prototyping capabilities. Both technologies have their strengths and can be used effectively in different situations. It's all about choosing the right tool for the job. Lastly, let's compare the performance of servlets and JSP. When it comes to performance, servlets have an edge over JSP. The main reason for this is that servlets are pre-compiled into bytecode, which is executed directly by the Java virtual machine. This helps servlets to deliver faster response times and generally more efficient operations. On the other hand, JSPs have an extra step in their execution process. They are translated into servlets at runtime, which introduces a slight overhead. This overhead can affect the performance of JSPs, but it's important to note that this is typically a very minor impact. In practice, the performance difference between servlets and JSP is usually negligible for most web applications. Both technologies are designed to efficiently handle dynamic web content, and they each offer their own unique benefits. Therefore, the choice between servlets and JSP should be based more on your project's specific needs than on performance alone. While servlets generally perform better, the difference is often negligible for most applications. So, servlets or JSP? The answer, as you might expect, depends on your specific project requirements. As we've journeyed through the fascinating world of Java technologies, we've seen that both servlets and JSP play pivotal roles in web development, each with their unique strengths and considerations. Servlets, with their Java-centric development model, offer a clear separation of concerns. They're your go-to for handling low-level tasks, such as request parsing and data processing. If you're looking for a technology that offers better maintainability, servlets win hands down. They allow your code to be more organized and easier to test. Moreover, servlets give developers complete control over the request handling process. This flexibility is a boon when you need to implement custom request processing logic. On the other hand, JSP is a technology that simplifies the creation of dynamic web pages using HTML-like syntax with embedded Java code. It's a rapid development tool, perfect for prototyping. If you're a fan of HTML and want to create dynamic web pages quickly, JSP is the way to go. However, each technology comes with its considerations. While servlets provide a clear separation of concerns, they may not be as quick for prototyping compared to JSP. JSP, while being rapid and easy to use, can lead to mixing presentation logic with business logic. This can make maintenance, especially in large projects, a bit tricky. When it comes to performance, Servlets tend to have the edge as they are precompiled into bytecode. JSP, on the other hand, incurs a slight performance overhead due to the additional step of translating JSP pages into servlets at runtime. But in most applications, this difference is negligible. To conclude, the choice between servlets and JSP isn't about choosing one over the other. Instead, it's about understanding the strengths and considerations of each and choosing the right tool for the specific requirements of your project. In many cases, using both servlets and JSP together allows developers to leverage their respective strengths in building robust and dynamic web applications. So why not get the best of both worlds?